Yeah, Royal Badness. Hi everyone, my name is Gary Harrison, and welcome to a royal adventure, Prince. Yeah, we're gonna get this
Subscribe.
Legend. Stick around. Adventure.
For all of us, life is death without adventure, and adventure only comes to those who are willing to be daring and take chances. And
for all of us, life is death without adventure, and adventure only comes to those who are willing to be daring and take chances. One of my all-time favorite quotes from one of the greatest entertainers and musicians in the world, Prince Rogers Nelson. I make music because if I didn't, I'd die. I record because it's in my blood. I hear sounds all the time. It's almost a curse to know you can always make something new. For some, Prince has always been a reference point for a kind of pop energy, this embodiment of being oneself and living the life the way you want to individually and expressing through music. What's important is that he put out music that pushes you to your limit. For the audience, witnessing his presence, his charisma, his control, his talents in every instrument, people couldn't believe it. A lot of people would say he's like something from another planet. He didn't even read music, which was crazy. Sure, he eventually learned chord structure and all that, but he wasn't a reader, note by note. He just knew music instinctively. He played with his heart. I think what his presence did to black cultural life in America is expand what it meant to be black. It could no longer be narrowly defined simply by R&B or blues or funk or pop or rock, because somehow one human being came along who was all of that. Prince once was asked, "So, are you a conduit of a higher power?" And he said, "No, I just practice a lot." Some friends of Prince believe that he wasn't celebrated enough. He's always been taken for granted, his uniqueness. For some, it was the mystique, the outfit, the sound, the sex, the dancing, the funk in his bones. I call it expressing oneself honestly. The Bruce Lee theory, honestly expressing oneself. I mean, Prince crossed a lot of boundaries, sort of androgynous, and people, even a lot of tough straight dudes, really latched onto him even though he was really pushing the envelope. One critic wrote, "To say Prince was a rare figure, even in the glorified secure unit that is pop, is a little trite. Seeing him strut his stuff, actually quite human. You were conscious that here was a straight man who wore women's underwear while channeling Jimi Hendrix. You never call him a feminist, but there was always a profound sense that Prince was no Neanderthal. An advocate for the reciprocity of pleasure. His funk had a very dirty mind." The self-explanatory title of his 1980 album. But although he established himself as a sex-mad imp, Prince had the emotional breath to write about HIV, raspberry berets, and doves crying a priapic hippie out of time, in psychedelic paisley. He sang from a place of complexity, noting, not unreasonably, that things were much harder in this life than in the afterworld. One of the things that I took note in many people was that Prince was fearless. He was constantly trying things out and probably wasn't intimidated by failure. He just kept going. He was doing exactly and only what he wanted from the very beginning. He was one of those few people that you can say never compromised. Back in the day when Prince came on the scene, he was considered with suspicion by many. He was pervy, too small, too pretty even. He wore high heels and girls' knickers. I remember when I saw Dirty Mind in the department store in New York. It blew me away. I was like, who is that? Someone said to me he was too gay. Then I found out he wasn't. In those masculine times, anything feminine was derided, especially Prince, lip-licking, flamboyant, emotional, but girls loved him. Musicians sometimes helpfully divide themselves into show people or stereotypes. Prince set a torch to that distinction. He is one of the virtuosos. He was disciplined and lived and breathed what he did from a very early age. That's always intimidating for so many, because so many people don't have those things. It takes some forever to find their voice, and some don't have the discipline. But somehow he knew exactly what he wanted and followed through consistently throughout his life. As far as recording is concerned, he did thousands of songs. And obviously, he didn't get every single thing right. He just kept going, and there was always one of those clams with a pearl inside. A friend once said, he loves voices. He's obsessed with great voices, with talent, and he loves women. And I don't mean that in necessarily just a sexual way. I mean, obviously, he appreciates beauty, but he was crazy for talent. Just think of all those female musicians that he brought through who probably wouldn't have gotten a look in if it wasn't for him. Sheila E. He introduced her to the world. Candy Dulfer, an incredible saxophonist. He was the last of the great performers. Like Michael, he was the king, and he was the prince. Now there are none left. They weren't human. The way they performed, they were electrifying. And you're not going to get these kind of performances again. It's a big loss. So the year was July 1984. I went to see the movie on Long Island, New York. We viewed the movie 2 times that same day. That's how impressed we were with the film. The music was popping because prior to seeing the film, I had the music a month before. So it was so much fun to watch the cohesive blend of the film in conjunction to this music I was listening to so intensively. Yeah, that was Levittown, Long Island. Strong Island. I was left thinking, he did it. He transformed himself into a mega superstar. It just worked, the whole package. Brilliant album. I was supporting this music since Controversy. His music, that is. Since it hit the stores back in '81. I saw something in his movement back then. He didn't disappoint. That movie was Purple Rain. It was a culmination of all those very hardship days and nights the man put into the recording studio from '77 on until that point. He deserved every accolade for this masterpiece. Above all, Prince was an individual who stood as a standard bearer for individuality. His influence helping empower millions of others to own their uniqueness, shaping the more diverse, accepting, colorful world that's crystallizing in the 21st century. Not only did Prince write songs, but he played most instruments and produced music. His hands-on approach gave creative power back to artists by taking full control over the direction of his work. Prince was able to shape the sounds that still influence countless musicians to this very day. One of the most hands-on artists of his or any generation, Prince helped put the creative power back in the hands of artists when he assumed control over most of his musical output. But perhaps even more importantly, Prince went to bat for artists everywhere when he stood up for control over his own music. One of the most talented musicians of all time, Prince was also one of the best performers of all time. The energy and passion he puts into each show guaranteed a fantastic concert experience. So with all that being said, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for listening. My name is Gary Harrison, and remember, stay humble and stay hungry. You've been watching Royal Adventure with Prince. Throughout his nearly 40-year recording career, Prince surrounded himself with the opposite sex. From the revolution's first incarnation in 1979, which included keyboardist Gail Chapman, to his final backing band, all-female trio Third Eye Girl. Women were his collaborators, his colleagues, his peers. They were his muses, like Patrice Rushen, the R&B singer, who reportedly inspired his first top 40 hit, 1979's I Wanna Be Your Lover. And they were his paramours, as is shown by his well-documented relationships with protégés like Vanity and Carmen Electra, to his tabloid involvements with actresses Vanessa Marcil, Cheryl Friend, Kim Basinger, to his two marriages, sometimes, as with drummer Sheila E., they were all of the above.